Tonight, politicians continue to flock to the far west ahead of the New South Wales state election. One of today's announcements including funding to preserve Indigenous history. And the Department of Transport proposes a much lower speed limit for drive-on beaches. But is 25 kilometres an hour the answer?
From our 7 Spencer Golf Studios, your nightly news with Madeline Kerr begins now.
Good evening, thanks for joining us. Indigenous history across far west New South Wales will be preserved for future generations after a funding announcement in Broken Hill today. The Minister for Hospitality and Racing, Kevin Anderson, says the funds will go towards archiving critical pieces of Indigenous history, and it will all be done under the stewardship of a Wilyakali elder.
The money coming in from the Community Development Fund is over $150,000 and will see the City Library use the funding to collect the oral histories along with personal documents and photographs for the region.
Having that oral history and culture embedded forevermore, because we need to make sure we keep those stories and have them for generations to come.
With libraries diversifying and not being just about books and shifting into other areas of learning to suit the community.
They're now the central hubs of any particular council. Council's doing a great job, like Broken Hill here, where they're becoming like a service centre, and they need to be culturally appropriate to welcome all.
The collection of material and archives will be under the guidance of a Wilyakali elder to help build an understanding and appreciation of local culture, and will be made accessible to the public.
We can certainly look at doing some oral history workshops, but the aim of the project would be to employ an Indigenous person, train them up, and then they would be the one collecting those stories.
Council has backed an oral history project for some time, and with an ageing population, the time to get started is now.
Once they become second-hand, they're not as important. When they're third-hand, they're not necessarily true. When they're first-hand, they're an actual depiction of a person's living experiences, and that's why it's so important to the council.
Joshua Mercer, 7 Spencer Golf News.
South Australians are being asked to have their say on a proposal by the Department of Transport to lower the speed limit along drive-on beaches. Authorities are hoping slowing down on the sand will reduce the risk of potential injuries.
The South Australian government is looking to reduce all coastline speed limits to as low as 25 kilometres per hour. It's one of the options outlined in their new Your Say survey, which has been opened up for community consultation.
I think this is a decision and a public consultation that will be widely supported by the community.
The push for change looking to close an oversight in the state's Road Traffic Act. Currently, drive-on beaches in South Australia are considered road-related areas, which means where there's no signed speed limit, the default speed for a non-built-up area of 100 kilometres per hour applies.
We might have an idiot on our beach in the same way we might have a selfish idiot on our roads, but the vast majority of South Australians do the right thing. Most people on our beaches wouldn't dream of driving at 100 kilometres an hour.
One of our region's most popular sandy stretches, North Beach at Wallaroo, already has a 50 kilometre speed limit. But the Eyre and York Peninsulas offer many more beaches for the four-wheel drive enthusiast. Spanning from Sejuna's Shelley Beach, Point Sir Isaac, Palubi Beach and many more in the Lincoln National Park. The state government says an assigned speed limit across all SA beaches will reduce confusion, especially on those not yet signed. Consultation on the matter closes on Friday, the 17th of March. Edward McCarroll, 7 Spencer Golf News.
As the Flinders Ranges continues to move forward after the pandemic, there's a clear sign the tourism industry is well and truly back. The Boolaroo Steam and Traction Preservation Society is in the running for a brand new award, and it's all thanks to the Grey Nomads.
Since 1968, Boolaroo Centre has been the base of mechanical transport history, with traction engines, tractors, trucks and all kinds of machinery on public display at the Steam and Traction Preservation Society. The museum is also home to the most dangerous tractor, known as the Little Grey Fergie.
It's got no drawbar, so people in the Adelaide Hills, they used to hook a chain onto a pin high up and if the box thorn didn't come out, it just flipped it over backwards, and it was quite dangerous. It killed a few people.
Now the Society could have a new claim to fame after it was nominated for the Grey Nomad Awards in the Historic Attraction category.
The girl in the town put in a application, and they came around and had a look at it and put us up, and we've got to the finals.
Mr McCullum hopes the nomination will garner more interest in the museum.
We have a very unique collection here, and of course it's all the people around Australia that know us, but they're only a few, and we hope to attract more people in the future.
2 Spencer Gulf RV parks have also been nominated for the awards, one in Bullaroo Central itself, the other in Port Pirie. And on March 26th, the fully operational machines, some over 150 years old, will be out on public display for the Society's rally. Daniel Pizarro, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Still to come tonight, industrial dispute continues. Santos employees at Port Bonython still demanding a 5% pay increase, backdated to July 2020. And Corn's stunning silo art nominated for an Australia-wide street art award. Welcome back. Workers from the Santos gas and diesel plant outside of Whyalla have gone on strike. Crews taking industrial action in the hopes of fast-tracking negotiations for a pay rise. Edward McCarroll has more.
Work has been put on hold at Santos's Deepwater Port gas plant and diesel storage facility in light of an industrial dispute. The halt in operations comes as workers have been refusing to connect and disconnect oil tankers and gas carriers at the Port Bonython site. The Australian Workers Union says the strike will cause delays in the country's oil and gas supplies and hit Santos where it hurts, their money. The union using the strike to push for better pay after spending the past 18 months trying to negotiate a pay increase of 5%. Since July 2020, 2 enterprise agreements have been offered up by Santos that have been knocked back by the workers. Union spokesperson Gary Henderson says the workers are ready to stay on strike for as long as it takes. Santos says it has ways of mitigating the impacts caused to its company's supply and is committed to negotiations between the union and employee representatives.
Eddie, thank you. The Whyalla Art Group has been hard at work in recent weeks, beautifying the city. The artists have been working on multiple murals. At the moment, the group is busy painting a rather intricate mural made up of 21 different smaller paintings on the side of the City Plaza building. And it doesn't stop there. The group is also preparing to reveal another mural at the Foreshore Caravan Park this Friday. Speaking of art, street art is the perfect medium to attract an audience to a place they might not usually go. And Illuminart has done just that, putting a spotlight on regional South Australia through its breathtaking stories using light.
Illuminart's hard work has paid off, with 2 of their street art installations shortlisted as finalists in the Australian Street Art Awards.
Well, fantastic. We're over the moon.
The Corn Light Show was the first permanent projection site, but it later became part of the Constellation Stories in Light, held across 5 South Australian towns in 2022, which was a free, family-friendly, colourful display of science-themed artwork and stories.
Each town is so unique, or many distinct stories to tell, so bringing the light shows to each of these places gives you the capacity to enable a regional community to help educate the people that come and visit.
What makes these light stories so special is their after-dark element. Illuminart describe it as a modern campfire, storytelling through light projection.
Gets people gathering together at a time of day when they're mentally in a space to have conversation and reflect together.
There have been some impressive winners over the years, like the Colourtumby Street Festival. This year's winners will be announced during an online celebration on Friday, February the 10th. To keep an eye on Illuminat's future work, follow them on Facebook. Annabel Francis, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Stay with us after the break. Historical fiction set in the Flinders Ranges. We chat to DARRY FRASER about her new novel. And 6 months out from the Monday Bash, the ticket sales have almost reached capacity. Welcome back. Port Augusta continues to be a must-stop destination for writers embarking on book tours. Spooking novel number 12, DARRY FRASER is the latest best-selling author to drop by.
A very special occasion at the Port Augusta Library, a chance to meet writer DARRY FRASER.
It was lovely to be here, and you can always tell that a crowd is going to be good and interactive by the first couple of people that walk in, so I was thrilled to bits.
She's promoting her latest book, The Forthright Woman, which features familiar locations for locals who attended the event.
Well, part of the book is set in this area, and of course back in the 1890s travel was by cart or by train, so we come up through Port Pirie, up to Port Augusta and back across to Corn and Hawker, so I had to come here, had to.
Being her 12th novel, it's certainly not DARRY's first rodeo. Penning 3 drafts for more than 3 decades, her first book was published back in 2016. Released late last year, The Forthright Woman is a tale of empowering feminist adventure.
Feedback has been great, and certainly readers and reviewers have been wonderful as well.
Miss Fraser's tour was thanks to Meg's bookshop in Port Pirie, who highlighted the importance of local bookshops in towns. And there are more novels on their way.
There's already 3 books written and ready to go, and so hopefully they'll come out at the end of the next 3 years. So yes, I'm already ahead. It's all I want to do, so I put my head down and get to it.
Daniel Pizarro, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Learning how to keep kids safe online. That's what parents and guardians were doing on Safer Internet Day in Broken Hill yesterday. Attendees at the City Library also learnt about online scammers and what to look out for if you think someone's trying to scam you. For added cyber protection, the City Library is also conducting a community survey about getting an eSmart accreditation, which will fully equip the staff and library users with the skills necessary to use digital technology safely and responsibly. And if you were planning on attending this year's Monday Bash, then you need to get in quick. The event is almost sold out, with 95% of tickets being snapped up already. After 2 events last year, the next one will be held on August 17 through to the 19th. Ice House will be the headline act, with other notable performers including the Hoodoo Gurus, Human Nature and Pete Murray. Stay with us. After the break, we have our weekly Fuel Watch segment, where we compare the average price of fuel across the region. And more days in the 40s ahead of us. We'll have the weather details with Alex Sykes. Welcome back. Much like a roller coaster, the cost of fuel goes up and down. But at the moment, it appears we're stuck on a high point, especially if you're after unleaded. Annabel Francis has this week's Fuel Watch.
There's no huge news in the world of petrol prices. Things are looking a little better for those who rely on auto gas and diesel, and slightly worse for unleaded users. First thing first, let's take a look at the cost of unleaded fuel in the regions. The highest price can be found at Whyalla at $1.85, and not far behind is Broken Hill and Port Augusta. Although it's not all bad news for the Jewel of the North, as the price has decreased slightly compared to last week. Prices in Port Lincoln and Kadina have crept into the $1.80 mark, while a Port Pirie motorist can expect around $1.79. Unsurprisingly, the lowest price can be found in Adelaide, which unusually had the highest price last week. Next up, we have diesel, which is looking positive this week. Prices are pretty consistent in Broken Hill, Kadina and Port Pirie at $1.99 and $1.96, all avoiding the $2 mark. The costs have stayed the same in Port Augusta, while Port Lincoln and Whyalla have seen a decrease. Once again, the lowest price can be found in the capital, at $1.94. If you need diesel, it might be the week to fill up. Lastly, let's look how things are travelling for those after auto gas. Instead of prices being stagnant, we can see some variety. And fortunately, it's mainly green arrows. Prices at Port Lincoln remain at $1.26, as does Kadeena's prices at $1.14. Broken Hill's price has increased to $1.16 and Adelaide's to $1.09, increasing 12 cents from last week's price. Prices have decreased at Whyalla, Port Augusta and Port Pirie, so motorists better get in quick. That's it for this week's Fuel Watch. And remember, these prices are just regional averages and do not represent any particular outlet. Until next week, drive safely.
Annabel Francis reporting there from Port Pirie. Thank you. It's time now to take a look at what's happening in the weather with Alex Sykes. Alex, it didn't drop below 20 in Port Pirie last night, but how was today?
A very warm night, Maddie, especially compared to last Saturday when the temperature dropped to 8 degrees overnight. As for today, well, it started off relatively tame. The temperature began to pick up between 7:30 and 8 a.m. before reaching 37.8 degrees at 3:32. Elsewhere, 35 degrees in Kadina earlier this afternoon, 1 degree cooler in Clare, a top of 34 degrees there. Looking more broadly at today's weather map now, both Cooper Pedy and Woodner hit around 40 degrees this afternoon, 38 in Port Augusta, 35 in Whyalla, 34 in Broken Hill, just 26 degrees in Port Lincoln after an overnight low of 15.4 degrees. Taking a look at the satellite image now, a low pressure trough will move over the west of South Australia tomorrow, then over the east on Friday. Another ridge will extend across waters to the south over the weekend. Moving on to tomorrow's weather outlook now, and we'll start with the Gulf waters. East to southeasterly winds 10 to 20 knots, becoming variable about 10 knots late evening, seas around a metre, and south to southwesterly swell around a metre. Port Lincoln, a sunny top of 31 degrees tomorrow, 38 in Cleve, and a sunny top of 43 in Woodner before a cool change sweeps over the area in the afternoon. While it can expect around 38 degrees on Thursday, mostly sunny and 41 in Port Augusta, 21 degrees overnight, and Kadina blue skies and a top of 37. Port Pirie is expected to reach a high of 40 degrees tomorrow, getting down to around 19 tonight, between 17 and 37 in Clare and 36 degrees in Broken Hill, tempered by some light winds in the early afternoon. Taking a look further through the week now, starting with Friday's forecast, and blue skies are forecast for the majority of the region. 40 degrees in Broken Hill and Cooper Pedy, 39 in Port Augusta, 35 in Port Pirie. Bit of reprieve for our viewers in Woodner, partly cloudy, top of 32 on Friday. Moving on to Saturday's outlook now, temperatures are not looking quite as severe for the first day of the weekend. 27 in Whyalla and Kadina, partly cloudy and 28 in Port Pirie, 31 in Port Augusta and Woodner, a very pleasant top of 25 degrees on the way for Port Lincoln. And finally, taking our first look at how Sunday is shaping up, and it's looking a bit cloudy, which is welcome. 28 in Port Augusta and Port Pirie, 25 in Whyalla and Adelaide, and a sunny top of 30 in the Silver City. And just quickly, Maddie, a reminder to be sun safe tomorrow with the UV index set to reach extreme levels across our region. The Weather Bureau has declared low intensity heat wave conditions for the eastern and lower Eyre Peninsula, as well as the mid-north and the Flinders districts. It's back to you, Maddie.
Good advice, Alex. Thank you. And that's the local news this Wednesday. I'm Madeline Kerr. From all of us here, thanks for joining us. I'll have updates a little later, but until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.